Okay, how about now? Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me calling?
Should be able to hear now. I can hear the click.
Yeah,
Which click?
off his computer, laptop.
Maybe you have to mute your mic on the laptop. Okay, that's it.
Can you hear me now?
That should be on Black Magic. You can hear it. Now, keep it going. Right, keep it on this then. That one's on, that one's off.
Okay. You can see me now. Sorry for the technical issue, everyone. We're having some sound issues. Can you hear us? Good, excellent. And thank you so much for everyone's. And here we are. Okay. And there we go. Brilliant. Could you hear me talking now? Can you see me? Can you see me? That's excellent. Can you see my presentation on there? Can you hear me? That's okay. As long as you can hear me a little bit. There will be a little bit of delay in sound. How are you? My name is Dhru Shah. And if you do have any questions or queries, there is no comment box, but our website has a chat. If you're on the website, there's a little circle on the bottom right side of your screen. Are you able to see the circle on the bottom right side of the screen? You can type your comment there. It is one of our chat functions, and I can get it on my phone, and you will be able to connect with us as well. Alternatively, you can go directly to the YouTube link, and you will be able to see that, whichever works. So if you don't have a YouTube account, it'll still be able to give you a direct link, as somebody has asked me. We've had a little bit of a technical issue, but it should work pretty okay. I'm just checking with my team. Can you hear me on the computer now? Can you hear me on the computer? There is a little bit of a time lag in the sound. How much is the time lag is the question we're just working upon. About 10 seconds. 10 seconds is okay. I can talk you through all of that as well. Any questions, please let me know. We are working through this live stream, and this live stream was done largely because so many people feel demotivated, so many people feel confused, so many people are struggling at the moment. And we decided to come up with this. This is all based on years and years of work, understanding growth, understanding psychology, understanding the essence of thriving in difficult environments. That's what we are aiming to do. If you do have any questions or queries, please feel free to get in touch. We're just waiting for a few people to sign in, so bear with us and work through. What I do want to hear, if you want to tell me through text or through anything, is what are the challenges you're facing? What are the aspects where you feel you want to improve upon? What things do you think you can really, you know, breakthrough? Because there are certain reasons where people are stuck. There's certain reasons where people find challenges. And what we want to try and do is help you overcome those challenges overall. Now, thriving in a growing world is a great place to be. Let me talk to you about S. S was my nephew, and I haven't given him my name, but S was my nephew. S basically it was about 2017. It was a summer of 2017. And I was I was working in the UK. I come from Kenya, and I went home to visit my family. S was a 17-year-old student who was in school. He did not enjoy education at all. He just didn't enjoy education. And one of the reasons he didn't enjoy education was because he just thought, what's the point of school? You see, S had grown up in an environment where his dad ran a business. His dad ran a hospitality business, supplying all the amenities to hospitality sector. And what he loved, because from a young age he kept going to his dad's factory and his dad industry, and he just loved, number one, the business side, and number two, hospitality. And he always thought he will develop a career in hospitality. The thing is that school never, worked that way. He felt that school was one of those places where actually, what's the point? I mean, and so he always went to school very demotivated. He went to school going, I don't know if I want to do this. What's the point, etc. That one afternoon when I was on holiday at home, I was sitting at home and his driver came along and I said, where are you going? He goes, oh, I'm going to pick him up from school. So I thought, let me come with you. I've got nothing to do. So went to school, picked him up. We were sitting in the car. We had a conversation. I said to him, how was school? And he just immediately came with an array of answers. It's too much. He's like, too many subjects to do. I don't enjoy this. I'm just frantic all day long. I'm just, struggling all the time. So much homework to do. He almost sounded like his reactive mode. And then he goes, but what's the point? I don't enjoy it anyway. I'm disconnected. I'm indifferent, whatever. School's got to be done. It's got to be done. It's boring. What's the point? I don't understand it. That was one of the big things he kept saying. And he was bored and confused. He's like, I don't know which subject to go for, where to go, because it's not going to help me in the future. And ultimately, he felt like it was not affecting him. He wasn't making a difference. It wasn't making a difference to him. But what he did tell me was, I can't do anything. I have to survive through this. I don't have a choice because, in essence, I have to, be in school. Nobody's going to let me off. So he felt struck and just have to prove my result. So maybe my mom and dad will let me go through. He was facing the classic signs of the 5 things that we get stuck on. Either we're firefighting, we're doing too many things. And he was like, I have so much homework to do all the time. Or we're just unbothered. We're apathetic. I'm not bothered. I do it because I have to, because they tell me it's pointless. And he was really confused. He was disoriented because he goes, I'm just bored in school. I'm confused. I don't know which subject works for me. I don't think anything helps me. He wasn't sure. And ultimately, he was feeling he wasn't making effect. He goes, I'm not going to use this anyway. And to finish that off, ultimately, the last bit was that he felt like he was stagnating. He was stuck. He was entrapped. I can't do anything. I'll just have to try and pass. FADES, a state where your energy is fading. And that's what S was facing. So I asked him a few questions. I started talking to him. We had a great conversation. I was then dropped home by the driver, and S went home. And every day after school, he would go home, and his tuition teacher would arrive, and then he'd have tuitions. And most evenings, because he had this fade state with tuitions, he would basically tell the tuition teacher about half an hour into an hour lesson, yeah, I got it. You can go home now. I'll finish my homework. And the tuition teacher would leave. He wouldn't stay there. It was just one of those. But that evening, something interesting happened. His mum called me. His mom said, what the hell did you tell him? And I thought, what do you mean? She says, what did you tell him? Because he didn't want to do any other homework and all he wanted to do was maths. So from this fade state that he was in, he was suddenly moving into something else. He was basically saying, all I want to do is maths. He was calm, able to endure the chaos, connected, resonating. I'll give you all of these in a while, but he had all of these E's happening with him. It's like he wanted to do nothing but maths. He was enduring everything else. It's like, it's okay if I don't do it. I want to do maths. And the other interesting thing was he used to let the tutor go half an hour. He's like, he kept the maths teacher back for another hour and a half. It's like, what? Mum's like, I don't know what you've told him, but he was enjoying the maths. This is the first time I've seen him really engaged and enjoying and really connected. And then he told me that the maths will make a difference for him. His mum was really confused. He even asked the maths tutor to leave him with some homework. He wanted to do more. He's like, I can do better with this. I can evolve into this. She was confused. What did you do to him? She said to me. That was very interesting. He was in this thing called the E state, which I found out later. The 5 E's, the E state. Now, every day, it's not just him. People at work, could be you, could be someone like you, who are just frantic, reactive, rushing at work all the time, firefighting. As people who feel disconnected, like, I don't enjoy my work. It's not fun. It's not anything I do. The people who maybe enjoy their work, but they're confused. Which course do I go on? Which direction do I go? Which way do I go with all of this? They don't know what to do. There are people who are unable to make an impact. They really work hard, and the patients don't appreciate what they do, and they don't feel like it's having an impact on them. And ultimately, they just feel like, I'm stuck, and I've just got to find a way to prove myself and my value. They are firefighting. They are feeling apathy. They're completely disorientated. They're in that position where they're not making an effect, and they're stagnating. We see people in fade state very often. Maybe you are in that state, and maybe that's why you have signed up to this Tubules Life. It's not only just that, but in essence, we have to move people from this fade state to a point where they say, I'm calm, I can endure the chaos, I can manage this chaos. They're absolutely in control. Not just that, but they feel like they're connected, they're enjoying, they're absorbed and captivated in the work they do. They want to do more of it. And they're clear, in control, and knowing which direction they are going in. They're very comfortable. And not only that, they're making a difference. They're making an impact, both the work they do on themselves and others. And they are constantly grateful for what they do. They're constantly evolving. Yes, they're enduring. Yes, they're engaged in that state. Yes, they are feeling like they are excited and they are making an effect, and ultimately they're evolving. They move from the fade state to what we call the E state. And if you're not enjoying work, it generally means you're off the E state. You're completely off the E state, and you're struggling with one or many of those fades. The E state is inspirational authenticity for positive change. The real you, lit up, sparked up, and making a difference. And that's where you want to go with every single action. It's authenticity. It's the real you. It's actually inspiration. It's lighting you up. It's making you feel excited, and it's allowing you to make a positive change, contribute towards something, and feel valued for it. That's where you want to be. So how do you go from that left side of fades to this right side of the E state? It all depends on how you handle your experience ecosystem. What is your experience ecosystem? That's the question you will ask me. Now, what happens is there's a lot of stuff going on around us. People are talking to you. You might see an advertising sign. You might see a Facebook post, whatever. Those things, some of them become triggers. They trigger you off. They become cues, and they open up some kind of ecosystem, because that trigger engages your brain, engages your senses, and starts a process in your mind. And one of those is, what's the gap? Where am I now? Where do I need to get to? What's my goal? What's my desire? And then you start working towards that. A goal is just a tangible way to measure an endpoint, right? So, I could talk about apples, oranges, maybe citrus fruits. Immediately in your mind, you start thinking about these, and it tells you, oh, I'm hungry. Or you might think, oh, I feel like having an orange juice. I don't have an orange juice now, and I want one. This gap opens up. And when this gap opens up, what do you do? What do you do when you're faced with a gap? Most people take an action. Immediately, they try and close that gap. They find a way to get to their endpoint. In this case, you're here now, something on the other side, and you find a way to get to the other side. Build a bridge. That's what happens. Your action is building the bridge. When I talked about oranges, you said, I want orange juice. You find an action. You go and get a glass and you drink oranges. Or you go to the fridge, you find a pack of orange juice. Whatever it is, you work through that. It's an action, is a method, a process, or anything that helps you close that gap. And ultimately, what you're trying to do in that action is overcome the obstacle that stands in that gap. In this case, the obstacle was the water. You're on this side, you had to cross on that, you learned how to build a bridge. How cool is that? I mean, you know how to build dental bridges. This is a real bridge. And the outcome you get from that action is what your goal is. When I talk about oranges, your goal may be, I need to quench my thirst. The outcome from drinking the orange juice is it quenches your thirst. So that's what happens. And there are conditions around that. You know, there'll be a refrigerator, there'll be a distance you'll have to walk, whatever it is. That is your experience ecosystem. And in your experience ecosystem, what happens is a cue or a trigger starts something off. It ignites your goal or your desire in your mind. It tells you where the gap is. Your brain analyzes all of this. You take the action, you do the process, you get an outcome, and then you think, what's going to be the next outcome of the outcome? That's all that is going on. But a lot of this happens subconsciously. The main things that happen in your conscience are the trigger, because you pay attention to it, and the process and the outcome. The trigger was oranges, you walk, there was a gap. They look for a solution. So the trigger comes along, it opens up the ecosystem, and basically all of these things happen. You first go, oh, what's the solution? What's the solution? I need to find a solution. And then once you're in that solution mindset, you go, okay, what's the solution here? Right? My trigger opened up the ecosystem of, my trigger of oranges opened up the ecosystem of orange juice, thirsty for you. You think, oh no, I've got to find a way to this now. And what's the solution? What's the solution? Oh, walk to the fridge and you get a linear path after you found the orange. It gives you a plan, a step-by-step way to close that gap. In this case, it would have been, this is how you build a bridge. And you follow those step-by-step way, get to the outcome, and that's your value. The value in following that plan is that it'll help me reach my goal. And then you look for endorsement. Someone to say, yay, well done, it's done. And this is the mindset we all work with. A mindset of solving things, solution every time. Now, this is what I did in many ways. Our education teaches us that because we solve things every time. You're given lots of problems and you solve things. That's what happens every time. That's how education works. And in essence, once you've learned how to go from here to here and build the bridge through the solve method, you just repeat and repeat and repeat because you're good at it. And as you repeat this and get to the other side every time, it becomes part of the natural you. In fact, you become so good at building the bridge, you think, actually, I'm going to try and improve on building this bridge. So you build the process of growth where you improve building the bridge. You don't just repeat, you improve, right? And you follow the same solve pathway again and again and again and again. And that's how we do dentistry. Once you've done dentistry, you go, oh, actually, this worked. I will do it again. I will do it again. Oh, I can go on a course and improve this better. You go, I've got to find a solution now for a problem. I'll find a linear course, a course that gives me the pathway to do things so I can do it, be valued for it, and be endorsed for it. And that's what we have done again and again. And when that endorsement works, when you've been rewarded for something, you think, you know what, this is great. I'm going to do more of it. So you deepen it. You delve further into it, whatever you want to call the D. So your first time you met a gap, you solved, and then you go on and you do it again and again. Your solve becomes solved. And that's one type of growth. One type of growth where you improve building the bridge. You improve the skill you've got. You improve whatever you do regularly. It's called static growth. And it's called static growth because it assumes the ecosystem will always remain static. The trigger will always be the same. The downside will always be the same. The water will always be the same. Your goal will always be the same. And you go on like that. And the reason we have grown to become people who do static growth is because we have grown up in such a system. The same problems in school were given to us. We assumed that the maths questions will not change. The world was a slow place, so we assumed that that's what will happen. And that's why it's something to follow. But in the modern world, two big changes have completely changed the ecosystem. One is demography, people. People who used to live in their old silos, people who used to always be, in their little communities, never sharing, lived in such a place that you never got exposed to other information. But now demography means people are mixing more, cultures are mixing, new ideas are coming out, everyone wants to share ideas. That attitude of people wanting to share means there's so much more information coming out. And the second one is all about digitization. The modern world is now digitized. There's so much digitization happening that actually information is shared very easily, very fast as well. And you know all about this. You probably share information at a very, very fast rate. And demography and digitization has put the ecosystem change on steroids in a very, very different way. It has shifted your ecosystem. What was your normal ecosystem has now become an ever-changing area. So in your case, the ecosystem may be, I am here now, I want to be a much better dentist. I will learn to do advanced dentistry. I'll learn to do implants. And you go and learn that process. That's it. But you don't understand the conditions around everything you do are changing. And then you go, once you've learned implants, the next step would be to go into practice and apply it. Oh, I can't do this. I don't have the team. My staff is always changing. Oh, my bosses decide to do something different. Oh, my associates decide to do something different. Oh, this material is no longer available. Oh, my patients are saying no. Oh, the economy's gone down. Anything can change. And information is changing things in 5 ways. What I call the shift. The first thing is that the sum of information that comes into your ecosystem is increasing. So where you had a little bit of information coming, now lots of it is coming in. Not only the sum, but the haste, the speed at which it's entering your ecosystem is increasing. And you're still continuing to try and do the same action day after day, after day, after day. Not that, but also the interactivity and inconsistency of that information is changing. Sometimes this information comes, sometimes that, and you don't know how it's going to interact with your ecosystem, which part it is going to change. And in essence, it may change your outcome, it may change your process, it may change the conditions. And the information is nuanced, it's fine. So the impact on your ecosystem might be different to somebody else's. So you can't copy what somebody else does. When you go on Facebook, what course should I go on? And they recommend all of that. How do you know it's going to work for you? No. And in essence, in your case, the outcome may change. In somebody else's case, the process may change. And this information isn't just stable. It is constantly transforming. It is constantly changing. And as that information changes, some of it disappears, it's transient, some of it reappears. It's basically not permanent. Now you live in a place where your action is your action, but everything around you could be changing rapidly. It could be disappearing, could be evolving. Perfect example is you were doing dentistry in a mindset where it was the NHS. NHS gave you a certain way, you work that way. Well, things around you are changing. NHS funding is going away. Patients' expectations are rising. Patients' information is rising. Patient want more time with you, and you still do the same thing. And if you now look at the shifting ecosystem, which is happening in these 5 things, and you use your solve mindset, so you get problems. Because when you have a lot of information going through and your mindset goes, I've got to solve everything, I've got to solve everything, guess what? You become overwhelmed. You become stressed about your workload. You become stressed about time, and you get exhausted. This is where burnout, tiredness comes from. Not only that, but as the information comes really fast at you, and you're like, okay, I've got to solve everything. What's the solution? What's the solution? You start doing things superficially because you're trying to fix everything superficially instead of slowing down. And as a result, some of the things start losing meaning. Some of the things start demotivating you. Some of the things don't engage you as much. And then you end up in situations where you're bored. Maybe you start getting distracted, or you just get demotivated. And when that information is inconsistent, and you're continuing to try and, follow the solve pathway. You go, okay, what are the steps I need to do? But the information's changing. It's inconsistent. You can't follow a plan because the plan keeps changing. Now you get confused. Now, what should I do? Which way do I go? Then you need guidance, and you get biased, and ultimately you regret the choices you make. This is what happens with courses, because you go, what course should I go on? Someone says, do this course, game changer. So you go on the course, it may have changed their game, but it doesn't change yours. And then you regret having spent so much money on that course. But of course, you spent the money, so you try and tell yourself, no, it was a good course. You justify it, you rationalize it. The finesse of the information makes your ecosystem unique to you. And if you're looking for value from a linear path, that value changes. It becomes variable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And when that happens, you reach a point where you kind of go, I'm not being valued enough. You get frustrated. Why is it not always working? You feel undervalued because sometimes it doesn't work. And now you're in that stage where you have to compromise. You have to do discounts or take a less UDA rate or percentage, all of that. And because the information is transient and it is changing and evolving, and there you are trying to go, what's the endorsement? Someone validate me. Someone give me a way to tell me I'm doing a good job, because the value is variable. You end up in a confused state, and you end up in a place where you start questioning yourself. Have I done the right thing? Self-doubt comes in. But you don't know where else to go, so you feel trapped. And you're like, now I've got to find a way to make myself feel good. Give me an award, please. Give me an award. Give me a reward. This is awards. Awards is a way of externally validating you because internally you're not happy enough. And these things here, these 17 things that you see on the screen, they are the consequences that happen because of using solve as a mindset of solving problems in a shifting world. How many of you have faced a few of these or many of these? Think about it. Tick the ones you might have faced, because I have faced all of those. When I told you the story of Mr. S, he was probably not so much overwhelmed, but he was bored. He was procrastinating. He was distracted. He was demotivated. He regretted sometimes what he did. He was biased. He was frustrated. He felt undervalued, but he did feel trapped because he said, I have to do this and pass. What are the choices have I got? How do you overcome these consequences? To do that, you need to think different. Otherwise, you will get the 5 fades things. Your energy will fade. You will be firefighting. You will be apathetic. You will be dulling. You'll be affecting less. You'll be stagnating, and you'll be in that. You'll be disoriented, and you'll be in that fades state. I was there at one point. I nearly gave up dentistry. So what you need to do is change the way you think from a solution mindset to what's called a morph mindset. I don't need to solve everything. Let some things remain while I try and focus on what's important, try and focus on what's the key things. So you don't solve everything, just a way of saying, I don't need to. And when you do that, you become enduring. You remain calm and collected in chaos. And then you kind of go, okay, now let me think. I'm not going to just close the gap immediately when a trigger comes in. I'm going to try and look. I'm not just going to go, what's the solution? I'm going to think about my ecosystem. While feeling thirsty and orange juice is not critical, things in your career, your job, they're critical. So you start evaluating your whole ecosystem. There's a way to do that. And when you start evaluating your ecosystem, you think deeper rather than just superficial solutions. And you really try and evaluate things. And as a result of that, you start engaging, you start connecting, you feel motivated with what you do. So what's your ecosystem? Think about that. What's the trigger? Where are you now? Where do you want to get to? What are the obstacles in your way? What are the conditions? What's the action you repeatedly do? And how does it all change? Where's the real problem? And when you then evolve your ecosystem, you recognize that in that ecosystem, I now know where the problem may lie. Researching the obstacle, recognizing the problem happens because of that. And when you recognize the problem, you suddenly get enlightened and excited because you feel like I'm clear now about what I'm dealing with. And that's when you can power up a solution that's suited to your specific environment, to your specific situation, to your specific place. And that powering that solution helps you create a bigger effect, a bigger impact, both on you and the people you serve. And that's what makes you valuable. You feel valued. And do you know what? Because you enjoy that all so much, you suddenly you develop that humility. I'm going to evolve. I'm not going to need endorsement and award. I'm just going to evolve and get better at what I do. And you start evolving. You're grateful for what you have and you're forever growing. And from fades, you go to the E state. Every action you take goes to the E state because it's connected to something meaningful and everything else is left. It's made you calm because it really engages and excites you. And when you do that action, it makes an impact, and you know that action is only going to get better and better around the ecosystem. That's the E state. And that's a different kind of growth you need to get to E state. You don't just build the bridge, you're always looking at the ecosystem because one day you have to build the bridge, but one day you might have to reevaluate your goal. One day you might have to look at all the conditions around you, and you become good at understanding all of this. That's how you work best in chaos. How many of you do that? Now, the next stage that happens from there is you keep repeating that E state. Now, you'll be wondering, what did I tell S that took him from that solve mindset to the morph mindset? Because that's what I was trying to work there in a shifting ecosystem for S. What did I do to take him from fades where he didn't enjoy his work to the E state there? What was the bit that worked for him? Well, before I tell you where he is now, I'll tell you what I did. The first thing I did for him when the world was shifting is instead of a solution mindset, I said, leave everything else and let's just focus on one topic. Forget having to do all the homework. Tomorrow, just tell your teacher I couldn't do it, but I tried to do one thing well. Change the mindset. I said, you don't need to find solution for everything. Actually, let's look at where maths sits. What's the ecosystem? And I recognized where he is now is he doesn't enjoy the schooling, and his goal is to get to hospitality learning about hospitality. And because I knew his ecosystem, I realized actually the problem lies not in the trigger, but the way he thinks about it. Remember those 7 things I told you about the ecosystem? I realized it's his analysis that causes the problem, meaning making. And then and that's the researching of the obstacle I found when I'd done that. And then I powered up a solution. I said to him, you know, you think maths is useless, but you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't know anything about business or IT when I started and built tubules. You know why maths helped me? And then perked his head up. What? Why? Because with maths, I learned logic thinking. And logic thinking is one of the most powerful things you need if you want to do IT. And if you want to build a career in hospitality, Mr. S, you're going to have to do this. I changed his meaning making, and that powered him up and excited him. And suddenly that solution had an impact on him that he wanted to do more of maths. Humble evolution. He didn't need to pass his maths exam to prove to others. He just wanted to do maths because he knew it would improve him. I moved him from solve to a morph mindset. And with that, I took him from fades to the E state. What are you going to do this? Fades to E state. Where is he now? Well, I'll tell you one thing. This happened about 7 or 8 years ago when we were recording this. Now, he eventually went to not university, but hospitality school for further studies. He learned hospitality. Currently, he's doing work experience in a hotel. I think it's a Four Seasons in America. He has had a work experience in a top hotel in the Middle East. He's had work experience in Kenya. He's had work experience in hospitality in India. And every time, every moment, he's trying to get into E state and loving what he does. And as E state happens after E state, He's now in that position where he's thriving. And thriving is when he is himself lit up and sparked up, making a change day after day after day after day. And do you know what? Basically, it isn't just him. Mr. D1 was lost, he was stuck, he was uninspired with his work, he had lost the mojo. And Mr. D2 is the other version of him who evolved from the fades to the E state and is living the dream. Not just individuals, small businesses, so many supermarkets every day are struggling. They're trying to do offers, they're trying to do everything. And this one supermarket did something different and moved into the E state. Nokia, who were actually repeating what they do, didn't realize the ecosystem change. They thought people would always use phones to make calls, and what they were doing was repeating the same action, just improving their phones bit by bit. And Apple came in and changed the whole game. Nokia had to sell to Microsoft. Apple are a flourishing company. Kodak, who were the leaders in photography for so many years, and their only competitor was Fuji. But guess what? In 2013, Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, while that morph helped Fuji become one of the most valuable companies in the world in a whole different field. If you're demotivated, if you feel like you've lost the mojo, if you're feeling confused, if you feel you're overwhelmed all the time, if you feel devalued, and if you feel you're stuck, if you're in any of those fade state, then get away from the solve mindset and move into the morph mindset. I'm hoping that all of this stuff I've gone over today has hopefully given you some thought, because this is a very short time. It is a very short sort of live stream where I can't give you everything. But we do have a WhatsApp group called the Dopologist. You can join that. It tells you more. We share more information on there. And guess what? We will soon be releasing a questionnaire which tells you, are you following dynamic growth and doing the morph thinking, or are you static growth and just doing the solve thinking? I'll tell you my story. It's long. It's an hour and a half or more. It's how I discovered not just the fades, but what's a false E state. And I was overwhelmed and I got burnt out. And how I found the E state. I'll tell you about the ecosystem in detail. And there's so much more that we go through that. But think about what I've said. Have a good approach to how you're going to achieve your analysis. If there was one take home, I'll tell you, join the WhatsApp group. And the second take home is go and look at your ecosystem. If you do have any questions, please put them on our chat. It's the round circle at the bottom. Feel free to put the question onto the WhatsApp group as well, and I will answer them for you in person. And if you want to, feel free to email us as well. I just hope that this live stream today has given you a whole different way of thinking. There's a lot here to take in because you've never been exposed to this kind of approach before. Solve, morph, shift, all of these things that you've not come across before. Come back, rewatch this. The free version will always be available. As you can see, it's also on YouTube, so share it with colleagues. But ultimately, my vision is to help you get into work every day, being yourself, being inspired, and making a change and being valued for that. I hope that that's a cause enough for you to listen to us, to learn more about morphology and dynamorph and all the growth factors, and really make a difference in your world. My name is Dhru Shah. I hope that we have delivered something for you. Sorry about the technical issues that we had before, but I genuinely hope that you will go ahead and think about the way you solve things and change them to the way you morph things. Have a great evening, and thank you for listening.